As far as socially responsible investing and shareholder advocacy, the UUA has been there from the beginning. A lot of people mark the beginning with the anti-apartheid movement, which was very important. But 10 years before that, the UUA, along with TIAA-CREF and the Methodists, filed the first socially based shareholder resolution in a company. It was at Eastman Kodak, and it was over race issues. And it actually was successful. The company changed their policy in response to that.
Many years ago, I worked for Greenpeace, and I had to go out and ask for money, canvassing door to door, and that's when I learned how powerful money is as a tool, and not something to be feared, something to be ducked out on, but something that could really be used as a social justice tool in pursuit of our values.
I have a deep personal commitment to making sure that my religious values are lived out in the way that I spend my money. I mean, quite plainly, I was very interested in thinking about the ways in which, as a Unitarian Universalist, I can better marry my investment strategies personally with the sort of ethical values and principles that I've learned as a member of this liberal religious movement.
This just seems like a natural for Unitarian Universalists. We have a great deal of wealth, we have a great deal of our own intellectual assets, and it makes sense to tie this into our financial wealth.
All of the workshops were phenomenal, but the two that I attended on environmental justice as well as overview principles on socially responsible investing were really, really wonderful in terms of sort of reinforcing the reason why the conference was being held, and also to get us to think about the sort of interlocking ways that issues of race and issues of environment and economy all intersect. So that was particularly wonderful for me. And the one idea that I'm really interested in implementing when I get back home is to see if my congregation would be interested in having a covenant group that was specifically committed to talking about socially responsible investing at an individual level as well as a congregational level.
Most of us probably had a very sharp learning curve. The terminology, people were very patient, were very encouraging and helping everyone learn about the terminology, the use of investment funds, and really helping people get on board with acronym city, of course, SRIs. What does that mean? Socially responsible investing and so forth. But there are also some very valuable tools as well, such as an example of a church policy and how they came about to get that policy. What are our resources? What is the UUA doing in terms of leading the pack? And how did they reach their decisions? And how can the UUA help the individual churches so we don't have to reinvent the wheel?
I think the key is, as far as effectiveness, is working together, working in collaborative groups. So I mentioned the Interfaith Center on Corporate Responsibility, $100 billion in assets among all kinds of faith groups. And they do a great job of coordinating us. And then what you find is that the companies then listen.
This is an incredible time in our country when things are shifting so dramatically, and it just makes total sense for UUs to be out on the cutting edge in leading the march.
Yesterday I had a conversation about what are the spiritual justice underpinnings of social justice. What are the spiritual or ethical values that we use to establish where we are, what we're doing? And the idea in the Hebrew scripture was brought up of a plumb line, which really, if you imagine, is a long piece of wire with a piece of lead at the bottom that establishes in construction a kind of straight line alignment through what we are in balance. And when I began thinking more about the title of the conference, the Money, Values, and Impact, I really saw money, values, and impact as a straight line through the body, almost like the alignment of what's important to us in the Buddhist sense of right livelihood or right understanding. How do we come into alignment with these things? Then at the same time, I was imagining a scale of justice, which we always think of as tipping from side to side. And I'm holding a mic, so I can't stick my hand out. So then here were the two sides of the scale, where sometimes it's weighted too far towards the individual, away from the collective, or sometimes it's weighted too far towards us and away from them, whoever we think that is. And I started seeing that in two dimensions, the plumb line coming up and then the scales going horizontal. Then the third image that came to me was really putting it into the another dimension, which is the circular global around us. Because I don't believe in these times we can align our money, our values, and our action without considering the global whole, without considering really the oneness of all creatures, the oneness of Earth itself. I think the events of the last 6 months have showed us how interconnected we are, and the idea that we would be separate is really illusory. I think the days are over when we would think that our decisions don't impact others. So in those 3 dimensions, the alignment of the plumb line with the lead weight at the bottom and the scales tipping back and forth, balancing different concerns, and the globe going 3rd dimensionally around us, I felt like there was a symbol for us in the many ways that we hold the intersections of what we do.